Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I'm a trained remote viewer, also specializing in interspecies communication, which means exactly what the name says. I can speak to other species like off planet. Where did I learn all of this? In a very secret government program that hasn't been declassified yet. Um, Darn, is that the excuse for never having been compensated? Probably. But I'm not going to go off on that tangent. You notice that I've been better about the complaining about the no money, honey. Okay, I don't know. I feel more confident than things are going to be more fair with Trump at the helm of this particular ship that I happen to be on. Okay, so I was bored, so I didn't do a chat yesterday, and then today I said I have to do something to shake this up a little bit because I'm getting bored. That's not good when people get bored. So I decided to go ahead and map the world. Now, when you're going to look for something, because there's millions and millions and millions of information, pieces of information out there, have to ask for something in particular. Of course, the first thing is to ask, what is the most important thing for me to know? But what I asked was, if I do the world map having to do with the tariffs that I think kicked in yesterday or today, and the markets are reacting and the people are screaming, right? Yeah, let me do that. So I did. So get what the vibration is. The vibration that came up from the map was okay, 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 Trump's right, but it's humiliating. So, like if I were consulting with Trump, I would say to him, maybe you need to tone down a little bit when you are negotiating, especially because he's so tough and he almost always wins. Maybe you need to tone something down so people don't feel quite so humiliated. It's a very big issue to be so much more intelligent than most people, which would be his case, and also the case with a lot of other people. And there's things, and I explained this to my grandson once. When you have that gap between you and other people, and in this case, we were talking about his ability to buy video games compared to most of his friends. I said, when you have that much more of an ability, or you're that much better looking, or that much more intelligent, whatever, that gap, that's where the spirits play. That's why Atlantis went under. Because technology here, ethics here, and the spirits played here, and they took it down. So maybe Trump, because you are so much brighter, you can see so much further, it's pretty obvious. You have a wider lens, maybe something to make him not feel quite so humiliated. I think most people don't understand that this is not a question of trying to get more money out of people. This is a question of trying to make something fair. If our products in this country are taxed when they go other places, okay, the country made that decision. They want to protect their economy. And then if the United States, Trump decides to do that, then all of a sudden it's the end of the world. Also, people have very little tolerance for pain. People want everything to be great right now. If you're going to do the tariff thing, which is done, you can expect some pain. There's got to be a little bit of a turnaround time for people. But the main thing that I would pick up from this map is okay, okay, okay. Trump's right, but it's humiliating. So I was picking this up from Europe. That's not true. I'm not exactly sure. That's what came up from the entire map. So let me cancel that. Now, looking at this map, the United States looks great. Russia looks great. That doesn't mean that other countries don't look great. Those were the two that popped up for me when I did this map. Okay? There's something going on here. I picked up Malaysia. That airplane, it was a Malaysian airplane. Did it get lost any place around here? Because if it did, there's a dimensional door there that's getting a little rickety. Like when you have something that's wooden and it's rickety, it's going to break down. There's a dimensional door there that's rickety. So if somebody can look that up, that would be great. I don't know if somebody here in the chat can do it or send it to me later. Is that where the plane went down? Europe is completely all black magic. Boop, boop, boop. Now, that does not mean that, oh, and South Africa. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a lot more black magic other places. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting this in South Africa. My protocol remains the same. What I changed, I got a map of the world. And then I said, I want a map of whatever we need to know having to do with the tariffs. And the first thing that came up was, okay. It's only fair. United States, great. Russia, great. So I have a story, and I've been wrestling whether I should tell you the story or not. I'm going to say the story because for some reason it's stuck in my head for decades. Remember when I was free 30 years ago and then I got completely buried? I did so much 30 years ago. I mean, like, my God, when I look back at my documents and my trips, and then all of a sudden I kind of like disappeared. I was put under with black magic and microwave weapons. So 30 years ago, I was on a trip, which was actually a seminar for stress management, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And there were a lot of heavy duty executives from companies that I'm not going, one particular company, which I'm not going to mention the name. And we were leaving the conference and going back to the hotel. And I ended up in the front seat of a car where in the back seat were three of these high level executives. And we were all very friendly because a lot of personal stuff had come out. It was a stress management. It was really very deep, not superficial. So everybody was friendly. And one of the men in the back seat was talking about what was going on in his company. His company made, I'm not sure that I could say the product because maybe it would give it away. His company made a product that used a lot in construction. And it's, I think the company was originally British, but it's worldwide. Everybody knows the name. And he was saying that he had a really big problem. He was in charge of a particular division, large, multi-million. And he was saying that his bosses were telling him that he needed to do something about sales. They weren't doing well, and that they were going to close some factories um, in the United States, and that he needed to see if he could save these factories because this was supposed to be, it was important that they keep a presence in the United States, whatever. I don't remember what the storyline was. The trick, and he was saying in the back seat, listen, I felt so bad for him. I could feel his pain, his emotions. And he was saying, they want me to keep the factory open. They want me to figure out how to keep cutting costs. He said, how can I do that? In the factory, they earn, in the United States, $18 an hour. And in Asia, they don't earn $18 in a month. How is it that I am supposed to be able to compete with them? I don't know. Maybe it was because he had just come from stress management. His heart was very open. He was with his emotions. I could feel the level of his distress. He was heartbroken. He wasn't going to be able to keep those factories open, at which time he was going to lose his job. He didn't work for the factory, he worked for the company. So I'm only putting this out there because the reason a lot of stuff is made in other countries has to do with how much less expensive it is. So I don't know if this has anything to do with the tariffs. I'm sure that it does at some level that I am not interested in understanding. But there's some realities here that are a little bit of the explanation of why things are the way that they are. And for some reason, I just needed to share that story. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing the tariffs because I don't know whatever that would have to do with my little story that I just told right now. I just know that when I heard that story, I felt it was very important. So maybe sharing it right now is important. Next, get on to more interesting things. You're going to have to give me a minute because I did not do my little homework. Okay? And I have got to get you a photograph up on screen. Now, I think this is the new head of, is it the new head of Secret Service? Okay. Okay. So I like the guy. We don't have a question here of me liking the guy. That's not the issue. Trump, if you like this guy and you like Cash Patel, you better set up. I mean, everybody that works for a company or the government has Social Security, and then they have medical. If you work for a company, you have medical benefits, none of which include stress management. So let me tell you about this man from the other dimensions with what it is that I know about health. This man is on the edge of a stroke. Do you see the level of tension in his face? His veins, okay, above his left eye, in his neck, but that is not what's real important. The color of his face is red. Wait a minute. No, 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 no. You cannot have that much red near your brain or in your head. That's excess fire. Excess fire is the basis for mental illness in Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, shamanism. American doctors don't even know the elements, so we're not even going to refer to them. This man is going to have a stroke. And it's not an attitude issue. It's of not understanding how simple it is to reduce fire. Okay? He has an excess of fire. He is so frustrated with the unfairness that he has seen in this country that he took this incredible cut in pay, left his podcast, which he loved, in order to work for this country. But it's going to cost him his life. I've seen him like this several times. This is not just once. Another one who's not going to be able to keep his head is Kash Patel. If you look at him, you can see a level of tension in his head that is not healthy. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that you can take care of. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to find the type of help that I need to give you, Trump, the US government, whoever, a stress management proposal. Which, how interesting. I believe in reincarnation. It exists. You don't, probably because you're Christian or Catholic. And those people that used Christ for marketing don't want you to understand what all the other religions know. But that's okay. So before I incarnated, I had to choose where I wanted to be to pick up the maximum. And I know this in retrospect. I didn't know this when it was happening once I was born. Where I should be born in order to be able to get maximum information on planet Earth to be able to help. Not for me, to be able to help. And I determined to be born into the US military. Why? Because US military sent me to Tibet for a year. If I had been born in Tibet, I would have stayed in Tibet on those mountains, poor as church mice, freezing cold, and not getting anywhere. So, a short aside, because I'm very ADD, my master that lived with, this old Bon master in Tibet, said to me that he had taken me on as a student because his masters told him in a dream that I would be bringing the information to the West here and deliver it. And he said, in the West, you can take advantage of this wisdom. We can't here because we don't have enough food. We don't have medicine. The babies die. Anyway, so why did he explain why he took me on as a student? Because the Nazis, supposedly, it's been said a zillion times, and I do believe it, they went to Tibet and they looked for the bone masters because they wanted to learn, because bone masters specialize in magic. Okay. And the bone masters supposedly hid, they didn't want to teach them. That's the storyline. It's in the books, whether it's true or not. But maybe it's the reason why he told me that he did decide to choose me. But before I was born, I chose to be born in a situation where I would have Eastern wisdom and Western pragmatism. Got that? Eastern wisdom and Western pragmatism. Well, I'm going to present a stress management program that integrates those two things, which is what I've been doing up till now. And I did that, and you know that I worked for a very large organization, a name that you would also know, one of the actually oldest businesses, modern businesses on the planet. Not that they're very valid today, but they're still around. And they were really stressed. And so the HR person that I worked with kept saying, "This is going on. What do we do?" And I said, "They're stressed. We'll give more money, give them higher." And they were already earning a ton of money. The group that he was talking about, they earned a ton. I said, "Their money is not their issue. They're stressed. Do some stress management, hire somebody." So after several weeks, he hadn't. And he finally, I guess he wanted to throw it back in my face. He said, "You do it." And I said, "I don't do stress management. I work privately behind the, you do it." So I learned a lot and I put together a stress management program that ended up being the number one rated by the participants. And it had a waiting list. It didn't last long because a new person was brought in to run that particular branch, which was the one in Latin America, for Latin America. It was in Miami for Latin America. And when he asked what I did, that was it. It was over. Because what I did was not, I did stress management and charged extra for that. What I did was strategy, and he did not like that. He didn't like that. We need to do that now. So I'm going to get that together. It is so simple, and it would be so cheap. It's so simple. It's the stuff I teach all the time. But I guess at that point, I did a lot of reading on stress management, and I learned about human capital. What's that? Your employees. Oh wow, I never heard that. That I In England they have a lot more stress emphasis on stress management. So I learned some phrases and some attitudes. No, that I like that human capital, investing in human capital. Trump, you need to invest in your team. And I'm not talking about anything religious. This is nada que ver, nothing to do with religion. There is nothing that I teach that anybody would say, no, no, my religion's not going to allow that. I don't talk about spirits in the stress management. I'm not trying to sell it. What I'm saying is that it is something that would not get any resistance. The company that I work for, where I developed the program, because they had business people that were literally trashing offices. That's how stressed they were. By the way, it was when I worked with them. This was 30 years ago when I was free. When I worked with them, one time the not the HR person, but the guy that ran the whole thing called me in and, oh, we're moving. I said, "You're moving?" And he said, "Yes, we're moving the offices." I said, "But you didn't tell me." And he looked at me like, "We don't have to tell you." I said, "You're moving and you didn't ask me." "No, we didn't ask you, Francis." "Okay, where are you moving to?" Anyway, within 6 months, that office got closed and it managed all of Latin America. Okay. And I'm realizing now, as I'm saying the story, that's when the trashing of the offices and the stress got out of control was in the new office, which was built on top of Indian burial grounds. Okay. There are certain things where there will be no mercy. You're going to pay a consequence. So, and of course, I think I probably sound arrogant when I said, you didn't ask me. Because for me, it's like where you live is so important. I mean, I had a client once that used to buy homes across the planet. And I remember the first couple of times they called, "We bought a place here. You didn't ask me." "Okay, we're asking you now." Okay, a little bit late. Anyway, this guy is going to have a stroke. I don't care. This is not about being tough. This is not about military strength. This is not about being right. This is about not looking at the laws that have governed health since the planet started. You have too much fire, you are going to get mentally ill, you're going to get angry, and if you have too much, you're going to get violent. Now, he has a place to put some of this extra fire, which is going after people, but that's not satisfactory enough. His system, not the logical mind, needs a release from this. or he's going to have a stroke is an excess of the fire element. Now, I know this because I know this, but I also know it because I have a friend who had a stroke. And I was able to read exactly that it was an excess of anger. And also, as this person is recuperating from the stroke, when her frustrations go up, which means too much fire, and I say, you're going to do it again. You need to get this fire down. You need to spend more time, whatever. So, anyway, I'm not going to go on and on about that, but that man is not going to make it. And Kash Patel has too much tension inside of his head. Now, I can imagine with what I think that he knows, because his family is not from this country, I believe they're from India, that being from there and knowing some baseline things about important stuff such as health or how to live, because Hinduism, I don't know if his family is Hinduism, but just to let you know, Hinduism basically is an integrating of the chakra system issues and stuff you need to know and into everything in your daily life. It's almost like Kabbalism, the esoteric part of Judaism, where they integrate a lot of routine practices such as washing your hands and this and that, having to do with what it is that they know. Okay, so both of those people need stress management, but I would imagine that everybody does. Um, well, first place, everybody does today because we are in a planet where there's an excess fire. This man, looking at him distresses me. His physical body is human, no matter how much of a god he appears to be. I like the guy a lot. I have zero issues with him. I have zero issues with Kash Patel. Zero. I like them. That's not the issue. The issue is if you have somebody like that, you really want for them to last. And people are very unreasonable. They really are very unreasonable. And a lot of the things that we all have to deal with, not me because of the nature of my business. If I get people, I had somebody who worked with me for about 6 months. She says, I can't believe you get practically on social media, you get a lot of haters, and I get practically none of that. None of that. Somebody in my family said, well, just because all those people love you. But I also do not allow, when it comes to when they do written messages, I don't get it. I mean, there's very few people. And when it comes to the chats on YouTube, every once in a while we get people, by the way, mainly people who say Jesus Christ would hate everything I do. And I'm like, Jesus Christ would never do that first place. Jesus Christ and I, we're like this. Jesus Christ didn't have a Bible. He didn't read all day long. And he didn't point his finger. He didn't. Now, I do point my finger if I get people that start bothering me in my chats. I said, listen, this is not the place for you. You're not going to get any place here. And then I'll ask for them to be put on timeout or whatever. But we also have a technique we use, and it is ethical in my opinion. But I'll tell you the technique. It's called Plan B. And we don't really get people like that anymore. I don't know why. We don't get people that bother. And we do get several hundred people live. And then okay. So Plan B, we found out that in Puerto Rico, on the south of Puerto Rico, the waters there are sacred. Maybe because they're near Atlantis, I don't know. So we have worked there, like when we as a group work to send people that died and their spirits are still have not gone to the light, we have a process in which we collect hundreds of them and then send them off to the light. But we do it there in the waters on the south of Puerto Rico. Okay. So plan B is if somebody's bothering us, somebody in the chat will say plan B, and if somebody else would say plan B, go. We grab the spirit of the person and we just take them to the waters in the south of Puerto Rico and we hand them over to the dolphins and the whales and say, would you please cool this person down? Just fix it. We're busy. It works. It's basically, now that I think about it, we put the person in water, reducing fire, plus we ask dolphins, that. But anyway, um, Stress management. This would be really good, particularly since Trump has to deal with everything that he has to deal with at a time when everyone's collective shadow has come up. And that was a Mayan prophecy, the Tortuguero prophecy. And it's why the descriptions of the apocalypse are what they are, which is people crazy, out of control, all the red. So to run an entire country with everybody's collective shadow coming up and without having the tools or even addressing that is a problem. I am getting distressed on X because of the level two, the violent things that are documented and shown there, which I think is totally something that needs to happen, but it's so much. It is so much. And there's a second thing that has me not distressed, but I wonder about it. You know that I wrote the book. Let me see if it's here. Let me put it here. Okay. This is the book. Sex, we have to figure this out. Statistically, there's a lot less sex. Why? I'm going to say it, and maybe I'm the problem. Why is it? What is this whole thing with having the females having to look so sexual when they're not really having that much sex? Is this like a way of denying the fact that they're really not feeling sexual? They have to look it? I don't know. But it's increasing and I find it distressing. It's something. They're saying something obviously about sex. And there we go, the book title. We have to figure this out. By the way, do you know how many of that book, it's been out for a week. Do you know how many we've sold? You're going to be shocked. 2. 2 books. Meanwhile, now my followers, mainly Spanish, not that many of them speak English. Okay. And it's in English. Okay. 2. So I'm going to go ahead and take the book and I'm going to leave it on Amazon, but I'm going to put it and sell it from my Shopify page, my store, because it's like almost impossible. The book is not expensive. How could I only sell 2? Now, that is proof of how incredible black magic is. By the way, I don't know who it was. One of my friends called me and they said to me, I don't know what's going on, but I've been wanting to call you for weeks and I haven't been feeling well and I'm going to call you and then I forget and so what's going on? And when I checked, somebody's doing black magic on anybody who's even remotely interested in connecting with me. And they're not just doing black magic, they're doing enough of it to make the person feel like they're crazy. Okay? Estela, you bought one of the 2 books. Now, maybe they sold 50 and they're only paying me for 2. I don't know. I don't think they would. Well, maybe. We don't know. So, Estela, remember to send me a report. And especially if you find any mistakes in it, we need to know because we will put a second edition out in 2 seconds flat. So anyway, that's it. So let's go ahead and do the stress management mantra that I will recommend for reducing fire for anybody whose life is frustrating. 95% of us. Which is, even though I'm frustrated because nobody likes to be reminded that they hate, by the way, this mantra reduces blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure or you live with somebody that has blood pressure, you've got the little machine, check that person's high blood pressure. And if it's high, okay, give them this mantra. I knew I'd make a mistake. I have an extra A there. Oh, whatever. Give them this mantra and have them sit there and do it 15, 20 times, which will take 3 minutes. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. And then take the blood pressure again. I have had several of my followers that have said that their blood pressure or their mother's blood pressure was through the roof and they were on their way to the hospital. Somebody called 911 or whatever emergency. They were on the way to the hospital. They did the mantra, except they did, even though I hate. This one will take a little bit longer. And by the time they got to the hospital or the doctor got there, their pressure was normal. This is maybe 50, 100 times that people have told me this. This mantra reduces the element of fire. How difficult this is. By the way, if this Bonjoni, is that the way you pronounce his name? If he's got a wife, she can do it surrogate for him. As a matter of fact, I think that we need to hire entire monasteries in India and have them do their own mantras having to do with situations and with frustrations, etc. As I've told you, I've done that, not with the, yes, with the monks, but not entire monasteries, a small group. But I'm not the US government, so. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'm going to put the music that reduces fire. And let's do 5 minutes. But I want you to check yourself right now from 1 to 10. How do you feel? 1, god awful. 10, great. How do you feel right now? And let's show you the white dress. How white and gold is it? Or is it, okay, it's white and gold, but it looks like it has some darkness over it in terms of how I see it. How do you see it? Now let's go ahead and get the music. 5 minutes, okay? Mantras are repeated silently in the head, and you expel your breath through your mouth. You do not move your mouth with the word. So several people in the chat said, what can we do to help Bonjoni and Kash Patel? Right now, you've got 2 arms. You grab the spirit, which is the astral body of Patel under one arm, Bonjoni under the other arm, and you get underneath the cascading water and you say to God, this mantra is for all 3 of us, me and these 2 men. And you stand there and you do the mantra. Okay. Um, Doing it surrogate works, and I've given you examples before. But look who else we should pay attention to having to do with incorporating basic health issues on planet Earth. Somebody who left the planet and came back different. Maybe she did not have, maybe the fact that she didn't have the earth element is the reason. I don't, do I have a better picture of this? See her chin? Is this, yeah, this, see her chin? Now, in terms of Kash Patel and Bonjani, I don't think I have his name right. Both of them have an excess of the fire. No, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's just too much pressure with Kash Patel. An excess of the fire element. The fire is the food of the devil. So people change when there's too much fire. They do what's happening now. Everybody becomes violent, they become mean, their personality changes. That's a problem with our children. They don't have enough of the earth element, which puts out the fire element. But look at Sunita's chin. So what am I saying here? That I just realized because I was questioning myself, am I not maybe being so nice or ethical, putting up these men's photograph in my chat? I don't know. She is not, she was not on Earth. She was off of Earth. It's on planet Earth that you need those four elements. What happens when you don't get the Earth element? Well, one of the things that happens, what happened to her? What is the issue here? This is very much a female. This is where the meridian that has to do with female ends, and then the male one ends here. You're supposed to have them together. If you put your tongue in the roof of your mouth, we don't need to go into that. But she didn't get enough of the earth element. And there's a lot of questions apparently, and I'm sure they're being played down in terms of health and aging process. Well, Elon Musk, that needs to be corrected, and that can be corrected. And I'm going to repeat, and I know I'm taking too long, but I'm going to repeat the story of the Ayurvedic physician that lived with me for 6 months. I didn't know anything. That was when I was free in the 90s. I actually had a life. I had a social life. He gave me, we had a session, he is as a doctor and me as the patient rather than him, somebody who's living in my home. And he suggested that I put a painting of a beach scene in my living room. And I was a little bit insulted, as I already told you, because I thought he was talking about my decor. He wasn't. He was talking about the fact that I needed more water element in my life for my health. And I could get it simply by having something that had water in it, because that would radiate out, and it would radiate to me, transfer. I didn't know that. So Elon, in terms of the shuttles and taking people up and keeping people healthy, it maybe is not quite so difficult. Yes, you're away from the earth element, the physical earth element, but not the earth element completely if you reproduce it up there. Anyway, this is the kind of stuff that I love. This is research connecting the dots. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't chosen before I incarnated to be incarnated into a US military program, not a Russian military program, a US military program. So I would get the pragmatism, and then they would send me to Tibet for a year, and I would get wisdom there. Putting the two together, bingo, we can resolve a lot of issues more easily with so much less money. It's embarrassing. Okay, we will see you again. Thank you for joining me. Do the mantra all day long, because it acts as a vacuum cleaner. It's not an affirmation, but you'll be vacuuming up your wife's frustration, your husband's frustration, the kids, the housekeeper, the people that work for you. You'll be absorbing it. No, you'll be vacuuming it up and out. It doesn't stay with you, not even for 2 seconds. And check yourself before and after you do the session. Mini session, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I do very long sessions, um, but you have to get